Hi, hello, hi, hello, hi, hello, hi. This is FSP Live. Hi, Robyn, you're here. Hi. So today, I am 2 weeks out from my initial COVID infection, so I'm feeling a lot better than I was last week. Not 100% yet, though. But today the plan is to answer two questions, and which is one more question than I answered last time, and also to work a little bit on a song that I started, but I'm having trouble finishing. So maybe maybe some crowdsourcing will help. I don't know. That's the plan. So the first, not so much a question, but a thought came it was emailed to us um, from Trina. Hi, Trina. Thanks for thanks for writing to us. You were enthusiastic about a study that I talked about last week, where two autistic authors suggested using the terminology adaptive morphing instead of camouflaging, because words have meanings. And it's nice if we can actually use words that have specific meanings for specific things. And, like, yeah, 100%, I'm with you there. And then you were talking about right sizing, um, like a wardrobe, for example, that I had decluttered 50 things from my wardrobe and decided I don't have enough clothes, because minimalism and maximalism get a lot of, mm, uh, I don't know, attention, but the idea that having the least amount or the most amount, neither one of those is pardon me, neither one of those is, maybe ideal. Like, maybe the idea of having the right number of things is the right way to go, and I have to support this, calling it right sizing, because I discovered that I can't have a capsule wardrobe. Um, I when I think of decluttering and minimizing and having just the things I need, all of the capsule wardrobe advice in the world is like, you just need one white t-shirt and one white button down and a pair of blue jeans and a pair of black jeans and like one wool blazer. Like, I guess some people can do that, especially if you're willing to just replace a thing as soon as it needs to be replaced. I need to have at least two of everything. It is just too stressful to me when a thing that I have that I like gets stained or otherwise damaged in a way that means that it no longer serves its job anymore. I because how am I gonna replace that if I'm gonna buy, like, thrifted clothes, secondhand clothes? Like, I'm not gonna find that exact same thing again. Um, so yeah, I need to have 2 of everything. I can't have just the one thing that I need. I need to have the one thing and at least one backup in order to exist calmly and to feel safe in the world and to know that, like, I'm gonna have, reliably the thing to wear or, the food to eat or yeah. And maybe that's because I grew up poor or, maybe it's just an individual thing, but yeah, capsule wardrobe, not for me. Um, the right size wardrobe, that's the way to go. And the next, uh, question we got asked was a very good question from Becky. Hi, Becky. Um, uh, who, emailed after the Low by No by episode of the podcast, asking if we have a trusted source to use as a reference to know which companies are s d which companies conform to our expectations in terms of, like, worker treatment and, you know, environmental policy, and the answer is no. You say you've done some online searching, and it is very exhausting. Yeah, you're totally right. It is very exhausting to try to, like, keep up with what companies do. The only guide that I have found that is reliable is companies that are certified B corporations, um, and there are plenty. I talked in that episode about how I'm changing how I buy groceries, so I don't have to buy Whole Foods, Amazon, as much, or I can buy from that as minimally as possible. So I subscribe to Thrive Market. Thrive Market is a certified B Corp, and they vet their products. This is in no way an ad for Thrive Market. I'm not sure how much I even like that service. I've only just started using it. Like, I've placed a total of 3 orders for groceries from them now, and it's expensive, and it's very limited in selection. Like, it's only pantry foods and frozen foods, like shelf stable things, and freezer stable things, really, that you can get from there. It's not an amazing magical thing, but the thing that they do is they make sure that the companies who make the food that they sell, um, are worthy of inclusion in their certified B Corp, um, lifestyle, of the way that they operate, and it's that kind of, like, curated options. Those are really that's a good thing about it, and I guess I decided that that's worth paying for because I did get an annual subscription, and I'm buying some groceries from them, so, that's the way I've chosen to go about it. Uh, there are also certified B Corps, like, so Athleta is a certified B Corp now, even though Athleta is actually owned by Gap, and Gap for sure is not a certified B Corp, but, like, Athleta as one branch of it is. So, again, you you gotta think about, like, the it's complicated. Yeah, it's exhausting. You're totally right. Um, my toilet paper comes in big, huge batches from a company called Who Gives a Crap? And they're a certified B Corp. Emily's bath products that she buys are from Lush, which is a certified B Corp. Like, that's the only, like, label or category that we found to be a consistent way to identify companies that are whose values align with people we wanna actually give our money to. Um, I'm sorry I can't be more helpful. And we'll look into it and see if we find some resource. We will definitely talk about that, on an episode. Um, but for now, I I can't help any more than that. I am so sorry. I wish that I could. Okay, those questions were way less involved than the finding of research into unmasking, that we did for last time, so it was a lot less time, but I do have, the next thing I want to accomplish is to figure out what to do with this song. Now, the song is about how, um, when we talk about people who are members of marginalized communities, members of oppressed populations, they they get a lot of media coverage, and people try to make laws about them. And specifically, I'm thinking of trans people, um, who are having legislation to, like, prevent them from using their appropriate bathrooms. Um, and the way that journalists and government officials talk about them is so poorly informed, and there is so much misunderstanding. And the problem is that the trans community is tiny, and their voices are not being amplified by the people who are talking about them. And I it inspired me to write a song that needs context. I have, like, a good, like, chorus kind of bridgy refrain situation, but I do need to come up with a verse that describes what the context is, that, we talk about people who we wanna legislate without getting any feedback from those people. So, here's the song. Okay, it goes. Journalists and government officials don't have the training to interpret hard data. Ironically, meanwhile, academic training doesn't make scientists fluent in social justice. Who can we trust? How do we know what's right? Listen to the people who have lived the experience. Believe that their stories are valid and true. Listen to the people who have lived the experience. Understand their stories. Stories are valid and true. 'Cause journalists and government officials don't have the training to interpret hard data. Ironically, meanwhile, academic training doesn't make scientists fluent in social justice. Pardon me. The cough from COVID is so intense. Okay, so slightly catchy about and I think it's pretty clear, and I love that I can make it catchy without needing to rhyme. But there needs to be some kind of frame, introduction, or introduction that is tuneful perhaps, and introduces the idea that the problem is people who get their lives legislated are being talked about, and decisions are being made about them without their input or consent. So how do you make that catchy and rhetorically snappy? Journalists and government officials don't have the training to interpret hard data. Ironically, meanwhile, academic training doesn't make scientists fluent in social justice. Who can we trust? How do we know what's right? Listen to the people who have lived. Listen to the people who have lived the experience. Believe that their stories are valid and true. The chord progressions that I'm using, and thank you, Amanda. It's an important message, but how to make it snappy and rhetorically strong. If we just start with the music itself, I'm just going there. Yeah, nothing about us without us. That for autism has been a slogan people talk about. Autistic people talk about. Don't make anything about us without us. That is really good. That is really good. And they already did the rhetorical work. They made it rhyme. So the beginning just goes back and forth between C and F. And then we go to which is 6, or in the key of C, A, F, G, C. A, F, G, C. Who can we trust? How do we know what's right? Listen to the people who have lived the experience. Believe that that's just straight from A to F, boom to C, skipping G. So it gets more simplified. So there's 3 sections with 3 different chord progressions in them. The thing that makes the most sense is probably to use one of those again. Probably to use, because then it'll be like an alternating thing. It won't be the same chunk of chord progression. So I'm thinking like nothing about us without us. Don't make it it's like it's don't make it place the baby. Boo doo 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 doo. The main message is nothing about us without us. We gotta stop talking about people and start talking to them. Yeah. Yeah, good, Robyn. Thanks, Robyn, yeah. I've been in my body 35 years longer than the doctors I talk to. That man. Yes, true. And yeah, we all receive the message all the time that outside experts know more than we do about our own experience. And we should trust the knowledge and information that is coming to us from outside sources. When those outside sources are not trustworthy or reliable. Hey, Emily, you worked for an hour yesterday and you've been in bed ever since? I worked for an hour yesterday also, and I spent the rest of the day in bed. Yeah, that's also what I did. But I did get up this morning and I ran 2 loads of laundry today. Because I only have 2 gray sweaters. I have 2 gray sweaters, and one of them I spilled a little thing on today, and I can't have a stain, so I had to wash it. So I may as well run a load of laundry, because if I lose that thing, then I immediately have to replace it, because I can't be down to just 1 gray sweater. If I only have 1 gray sweater, then what do I do when that one gets stained or has a rip or whatever, something goes wrong? Yeah. So doing the work. So we're working on a song. An introduction to the song, Nothing About Us Without Us. Stop talking about people and start talking to people. They say nothing about us without us. Talking to the hustlers, living about them. Talking about them. Nothing without us, about us without us. Talking about without. Talking about without. Talking about without. Talking to. Nothing about us without us. Talking about them without talking to them. Talking about them without talking to them. I like it when it goes to A at the end. Thank you, Robyn. But Emily, you're so good with the tight rhetoric, with the tight knit thing. It doesn't have to be lyrics. Just I like the nothing about us without us, and talking about without talking to. Still doesn't have like enough, maybe context. Rhetorically strong, not informationally as tightly packed. Yet. You ordered white glasses so that you could be twins with me? No, you can. Robyn's putting the email address in the chat. You can feel free to email questions, but you can put questions in the chat too, and I will happily talk about stress things in particular here if you have a question that you want to ask without things. But my because I kind of anticipated that, like, there wouldn't be anybody live in the chat. I planned at least to, like, get the song done. Um, so yeah. Thanks, Robin. Emily, why did you get white glasses? Because you don't generally wear white things, and I'm usually the one who wears white when we do stuff live together. So that's why I have white glasses. I do get compliments on them all the time, though. Oh, Emily, how you work for more than an hour without needing a 24-hour nap is to recover from long COVID. Did that help? No. Yeah. Unfortunately, Emily, your situation is not one that can be managed through the standard stress management practices because you have an active medical condition. Okay, yeah, that's fair. Yeah. You got white glasses because if I look so great, clearly it'll work on you too. Yeah. So yeah, no, Emily, you don't get to just, you know, follow the steps and good because actively medically diagnosably structurally your body's broken. You gotta fix it. Yeah. Very good. um oh, great, Christine. That's a really great question. White glasses will not cure long COVID. If they did, I would have been cured ages ago. Because I've had these ever since I started wearing white to do our live talks, like in-person talks. Christine asks, about additional suggestions/tips on managing autistic burnout. Yeah. 2 types of therapy. That is how you do that. Getting lots of rest. That is how you do that. Saying no to lots of stuff, trying to find meaning. I mean, those are all really good answers. You're clearly already working very hard to keep yourself safe and protected and feeling as as well as you possibly can. Uh, let's just acknowledge that maybe the thing that's going to help you the most is recognizing that the system is built, is rigged to not accommodate who you are. Um, uh, if your name is Christine, you're probably a feminine presenting person. The world is not designed for that. You're not really going to have an easy time getting access to power to create change that would make the world safer for you. It means that you're going to get less high quality medical care. Um, yeah, a well written autistic character, Emily read, recently joked that he only needed 20 to 22 hours of alone time per day. Um, my husband has COVID also, so we are sleeping in separate rooms currently in order to so that we can sleep because we both wake up coughing at different times of day and night. We're both sleeping a lot and trying to sleep even more, and the coughing is a lot. And I have to say, one good thing about it is that I get sufficient alone time now, and I don't feel as bad about it because it's a medical necessity that we be separated, but it does benefit me in that it increases my amount of alone time. And Christine, yes, if one of us is cute, the other one is cute. And I have been saying that for 48 years. And Emily has, for a long time, felt like she was the smart one and I was the pretty one. Um, yeah, which is not true. We, I think, discovered in the gender episode that I was always working so hard to be feminine, to conform to the socially constructed feminine ideal, um, because I did not feel internally like I was feminine, so I was trying to, like, pretend real hard. So, because I always conformed more, Emily interpreted that as me actually being prettier, which was so annoying because every we're identical twins, and people confuse us for each other all the time. And, so, like, whenever she talks about, like, she feels like she's the ugly one or whatever, like, You're talking about my face. Everything you say about your face, you're saying about my face because we have the same face. Ask literally anyone except our, like, immediate family, and they're gonna be like, yeah, you have the same face." Like, it's so similar that people stare at us when we're in public together. The right accommodations for work. Yeah, without being passed over for things, it's so hard. Oh, yeah, go to a networking event. Who liked that and was good at it rather than you. Yeah, that sucks. Yeah. Yeah. Man, that is yeah, that's really crappy to I mean, so, again, nothing about us without us. There shouldn't be conversations going on that are specifically about, like, this autistic member of our team, isn't able, willing, good at doing this thing, so is there anybody else who wants to volunteer? Like, that is not how that should be phrased. That you shouldn't be talking about these, you know, disability accommodations, like, publicly without explicit planning and consent from the person, you know, who is the subject of that. It's the same thing as the song. It's yeah, that should not be happening. That is really, really that's really disturbing. Um, I have not been employed by an actual employer since I was diagnosed, but I did have very typical autistic problems when I was employed by an employer, back when I was able-bodied and able to work for, a university or a school. Those are most of my employers, and I did have, like yeah, that's it my annual reviews when you're a professor, you get annual reviews, um, and, my reviews were glowing, except the one thing that was like, "Amelia needs to improve," uh my communication. Like, I was not as reachable through email as they would have liked me to be, and that I now know is 100% because autism. Um, a combination of my lack of ability and comfort with communication, and also my non-stellar mm, what's the word? Okay, flaking out on the word. The one that means that I'm organized and I get stuff done. Mm, mhm. Executive functioning. My non-stellar executive functioning that I thought was awesome because I finished a doctoral degree, so I thought I had executive function for day nope. I have below average executive functioning and, below average, like, communication skills. Uh, yeah, so that's just clear the feedback I got pretty consistently at my work when I used to work for people, neurotypical people. Now, the work I do is I talk for an hour and then I go lay down. That's my job now. Um, a lot of autistic people can't, don't succeed at being employed by a person in the world. It is extremely common. It's much more common for autistic people to be unemployed or self-employed. Um, because it is so hard to fit into a work environment and because the support needs are quite specific and in a lot of fields, like, backwards, like, completely work against whatever the general model of how business goes. The stuff that autistic people needs is completely contradictory to what the company wants to get done in so many cases. Emily told this story. Would it surprise you to learn some people don't consider answering emails at 2 a.m.? Yeah. What did they say? Were they like, some people don't answer emails at 2 a.m.? This is when I was doing a talk, one of those things where I talk for an hour and then I go lay down. Um, some of the talking that was going on was me answering questions about like stress related stuff in a work context. And somebody had asked a question like, I want to prioritize sleep, but sometimes I get emails at 2 a.m. And I said, what I wanted to say was, don't answer your email at 2 a.m. That's bananas. But I can't say that because, you got to meet people where they're at. And if this is a person who is, yeah, undergrads are a box of rocks in terms of emotional response, that's fair. That's true. Uh, what I said was to this person was, would it surprise you to learn there are some people who don't consider answering their emails at 2 a.m. Um, and she had not considered that. Uh, because we are taught so early, especially people who are socialized feminine, are taught so deeply that our obligation is to care for others, to be at their service, and to sacrifice our wellness on the altar of other people's convenience. She had not considered not answering the email at 2 a.m. Yeah. There are things you can't ignore at 2 a.m., right? Medical emergency of someone in your house, can't ignore at 2 a.m. 100%. But work email, yeah. There are now countries that have laws saying that employers cannot contractually oblige their employees to be available for work outside of working hours. I think that's in Canada now, um, which is so great. Yeah, there are employers who explicitly or implicitly demand that of their employees, and that is exploitation. That's worker exploitation. Elaine, twisted myself in knots to be who I thought they wanted me to be. Also, fuck no to replying to emails at 2 a.m. Good. That's excellent that is your um, perspective on answering emails. I also no, I can't say that I twisted myself trying to be who an employer wanted me to be because it never occurred to me that who I was an impediment to the work that I was doing. I thought my work is what matters. I do the work, and that's what I'm supposed to do, and I'm good at that. And therefore, we're done. We don't have to like talk about who I am until I got to grad school, doctoral school. And as you know, from everything we talk about with masking, there I had to twist myself into be a different person because it was clear that my work was fine. It was my identity that they had a hard time accepting. And because they held my future in their hands, I had to kiss their asses. I had to conform. I had to twist myself into knots trying to be who they wanted me to be. And it put me in the hospital twice over the course of 5 years. It is the worst and most dangerous health-wise uh, uh, personal human resource kind of problem to have. Oof. Elaine diagnosed with ADHD at 39. Yeah. Yeah. I'm related to a lot of people with ADHD. Um, Emily and I do not have ADHD. As part of our neuropsych evaluations where they diagnosed autism, ADHD was not among the things that were identified in either of us. But ADHD is just a different kind of difference. It's a neurodivergence where, again, you don't conform to someone else's expectations. And if you left to your own devices in, as you say, was it no, it's Christine. Who's that? No, you. Yeah, I was doing. Now you have a job with a much better culture. Um, for a lot of people, the better culture is just the one that fits with their needs, or a place that at least can offer accommodations that fit with your needs so that you don't have to spend so much time and energy trying to conform to the socially constructed ideal. Um, yeah. Amanda, also diagnosed with ADHD. The neurodivergent energy is strong today. Work product has little importance to the higher ups compared to the other stuff that matters little to me. Yeah. Yeah. Wow, Christine, they diagnosed ASD 2 years before they diagnosed ADHD? That's astonishing. Because the evaluation that both Emily and I had included, screening for ADHD. So I would assume that if you're being screened for autism, tested and evaluated for autism, that they would also be looking for, you know, ADHD, uh, what's the one where you see letters backwards? Dyslexia, that's the one. Or, other kinds of logistical differences. Yeah. Um, Speaking of the ways in which people don't conform to arbitrary socially constructed ideals, um, Emily's reference here to hoping that y'all librarians don't have to register as felons uh, connects to the problem of a society that changes what the socially constructed ideal is. And when that ideal becomes even narrower, such that it can't include books of certain types and with certain kinds of content, um, that is a way to increase the stress level of a large chunk of population when you narrow an already narrow socially constructed ideal so that people who are doing what used to be just like very common work are now considered fringe offenders who are doing scandalous and shocking things just because the definition of what is scandalous has changed. Yep, that's when the external context becomes an even bigger source of stress. Yeah. Self-diagnosed, autistic, saw 3 specialists for ASD until I finally got it diagnosed. Yeah, ASD covered the ADHD. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. ASD covers ADHD, 100%. Never thought ADHD until the anxiety meds, and suddenly it was hard to do things. Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah. And of course, the relationship between neurodivergence and anxiety and depression, again, a lot of this comes about, this like clinical mental illness comes about not because you are inherently broken as someone with ASD or ADHD, but because you are inherently non-conforming to the broader socially constructed ideal and you have more stress about interacting with the rest of the world than perhaps um, non non-neurodivergent than allistic and neurotypical people. I don't have a tune, Emily, but here's the chord progression. I got the nothing about us without us. Something talking about them without talking to. Something about the exposition that will explain that this song is about the fact that we shouldn't be talking about people without talking to them, and we should believe them when they say who they are. This is not the melody. This is just some notes that go with the chord progression, which technically is what a melody is, but yeah, Emily, good point. Every adult with ASD has CPTSD from being raised autistic in a neurotypical world. She means adults with ASD now. Um, Hopefully, in not very many years, children are going to be diagnosed accurately and be given the resources they need to grow up knowing how to compensate for the world's intolerance and inability to be open and supportive of people who are different. Hopefully, in the future, this won't be an issue. People getting diagnosed with ASD in their 20s, 30s, 40s as adults, hopefully that's going to stop. Hopefully this is the only generation that will have to deal with that. Yeah. That's great. The value of a diagnosis is that it gives you treatment options, or at least information about what kind of accommodations are going to be helpful. That's so great because Amanda, I attended a virtual conference about accessibility and hope for the future. I mean, the future is universal design, right? Right? I'm hoping that's what they said. Um, there are so few places in the world that are designed to be universally accessible, that have resources for people of all different kinds. And my experience with like physical accessibility, I use a wheelchair a lot when I'm out in public because I can't walk more than uh, 50 feet without needing to sit down or lie down. Um, my experience with accessibility, especially like when I go places, I tend to go to concerts, especially classical music concerts, and they're often held in old concert halls. And the wheelchair accessibility is a separate entrance with like it's like the servants' entrance around back with like just a like industrial elevator, and everybody else gets to come in the grand carpeted entrance of like the marble stairs and the huge chandelier. And concert venues, especially classical music concert venues, are designed to give you an experience of like elevated, and now you're entering a zone that is for art. You are not on the street anymore. You are now participating in something special, right? The architecture of the space isolates that place and time for art. And like, unless you're in a wheelchair, and then you come in the service entrance and come up the service elevator, uh, and you come in through the back, and you sit not in a plush velvet seat, but in like the back row of a section. It's separate's not equal. Friend's 11-year-old ADHD daughter graduating from therapy. I used to think I might someday graduate from therapy. Now I think probably not. Pardon me, I'm sorry. She's learned that she doesn't need to mask for people to like her. Her experience is so great. This is what I'm hoping for the future. Kids who are getting diagnosed are learning how to be autistic, how to be neurodivergent in a world that is you know, where only 2% of people are neurodivergent. Um, that's so great. Oh, it's 100% reminiscent of other kinds of discrimination. All yes, no, that when I say separate is not equal, I am intentionally evoking, other kinds of discrimination and segregation. Um, it's just that now it's considered generosity and, like, not just like we're doing the bare minimum, but, like, we have an accessible entrance because some places don't have anything. If you're in a wheelchair, you can't go there, right? It's just physically impossible. So the places that have, the back entrance and the service elevator are like, "Yes, we are wheelchair accessible. We are handicap accessible," they will say. But, handicap is not a great word. I don't really love that word. Um yeah, no. But it's perfectly acceptable to discriminate in this way. That's not considered discrimination, because you're deigning to provide access to someone who's in a wheelchair. And honestly, I I've been to Disney World a bunch in the past couple of years, and I know that Disney is a problematic situation. But I gotta say, Disney World, like that bubble, is the most accessible place in the world. I mean, I've been to London in a wheelchair, New York, Baltimore, Philadelphia. I've been to real places in the world in a wheelchair, and it's so hard to do anything or go anywhere. Uh, it's 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 twice as hard to get around in a wheelchair, at least, as it is to get around on foot. Um, and, uh yes, Robin. Um And so, like, one of the reasons that the Disney Bumble is so appealing to me specifically is because you can be in a wheelchair in Disney World and do almost everything as easily as anybody on foot. Almost everything. Not everything, but pretty close. Um, yeah, it's nice. Pardon me again? I'll wrap up shortly because the cough is getting worse from talking. Um, and maybe Emily will get back to me before next week, and I'll have help with writing a verse that describes the context of the new song. Um, but meanwhile, Robin, I generally think the liberal arts are more important than STEM to teach and focus on, except when it comes to the geometry of ramps. Yeah. I- you know, when I was in high school, I worked on the stage crew, and we did a production of Once on This Island. And, I was not a good at person at math, but I built sets. And for Once on This Island, um, the the only set was a ramp that went from one end side of the stage to the other side of the stage and then curved out and downstage. Um, I terrible at math, but good with, you know, plywood and 2 by 4s. I was able to physically build a ramp that was danced on by teenagers. When I was a teenager, I did this. It's not hard, is what I'm saying. It's pardon me. It's real easy to build a ramp, and, it's easier to build a ramp than to build stairs. Stairs are really hard. Ramps are not. Christine, Disney Parks, one of my special interests. Yes. We could talk about Disney a lot. I canceled my next Disney trip because I decluttered my closet, realized I don't have enough clothes, and decided to just, like, take one big bite out of the budget to just, like, get the clothes that were missing from my wardrobe, so I spent the money there instead of on my next Disney trip. I traded having a complete wardrobe, like, because I'd love to have enough discretionary spending to spend all the money I wanted on all the things, but I gotta choose. So I chose wardrobe over my next Disney trip. So I'm not going back again until April when Emily and I are going together um, to see the Hoop-Dee-Doo Review. The Hoop-Dee-Doo Review is our Thelma and Louise uh, trip, the girls' trip into the abyss, because indoor dining is a way to get exposed to COVID. And I did not anticipate getting COVID again before that. So probably I think Emily probably also got it from me because I was at her house probably the day after I was initially exposed. Um, so since we both had it, we'll probably be protected because we'll have, you know, recent antibodies to build our immunity. It'll only be a couple of months, so we'll probably be fine. So actually, yeah, you got a little COVID. I got a lot of COVID. So hopefully maybe it won't be as dire and scary to go to the Hoop-Dee-Doo review. You know, we'll be a little bit more protected. Fingers crossed. Okay. So here, just to review, here's what we got of song so far. Something about nothing about us without us, and then something about talking about people without talking to them. And then journalists and government officials don't have the training to interpret hard data. Ironically, meanwhile, academic training doesn't make scientists fluent in social justice. Who can we trust? How do we know what's right? Listen to the people who have lived the experience. Believe that their stories are valid and true. Listen to the people who have lived the experience. Understand their stories are valid and true. 'Cause journalists and government officials don't have the training to interpret hard data. Ironically, meanwhile, academic training doesn't make scientists fluent in social justice. And that's the song so far. I like the middle chunk. I just feel like it can't stand on its own. It needs some context to be like, why is she singing about that? Yeah. So thanks for your input. For that'll give me a nice, you know, foundation to build um, um, that context giving verse on. Maybe by next week I'll have it sorted. If I do, then uh, I'll play it for you next week because we've got 4 or 5 more lives through March. FSP live Fridays at 4 Eastern. Um, that's the plan. So, thanks for being here and for your contributions to the song and all that stuff, and for talking about the ways that it is so stressful when you have to live attempting to conform to a narrow, socially constructed ideal. Yeah. Great. Okay. Thanks. Bye. 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 Bye.